So, good afternoon, Kate. How are you? All right?
Yeah, I'm really well, thanks, Leon. You?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm very well. I'd just like to say thank you so much for taking part in this interview this evening. So, yeah, really grateful. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got two questions for you. And I think my first question is, just want to know a bit more about your experience of your CBT treatment. Oops, sorry, my chair moved. Your CBT treatment, and how you found it, and also your experience of treatment online and how you found that. So, as you're aware, the CBT-e treatment was over 4 stages, and the initial stage was stage 1, which was, regular eating, in-session weighing, real-time monitoring, reading the Overcoming Binge Eating book. So how did you find that stage? What was it like for you?
Initially, obviously quite daunting because it was the start of my sort of journey through the process of addressing my eating disorder. So initially, certainly the in-session weighing was quite tricky because it was something, although I'd weighed myself numerous times during the day, obsessing over what the scale said every day, to be told to lessen how many times I weighed myself was a challenge in itself, and then to weigh myself in front of somebody else was obviously quite nerve-wracking. But actually it was so helpful, and it had to be done because I didn't realise quite how much stepping on the scales would affect my mood for the rest of the day if it didn't say what I wanted. So actually doing it in the session or online, literally carrying my scales down to show you what it said, it helped me deal with it. It helped me deal with all the feelings that arose from that, and to talk those through and sense check it and realise that your body weighs different things. It doesn't have to be a set weight. Every day is different and every body is different. So that was really beneficial. With regard to the food diaries, again, initially quite daunting, that the thought of having to sit down and write and log everything that I was eating, how it made me feel, what psychologically it made me feel, physically how it made me feel.
Yeah.
Again, a really important part of the process to make sure I was eating enough, because I wasn't prior to that. So to sit and make sure I was eating breakfast, lunch and dinner and regular snacks and eating at regular intervals was something I'd restricted so much, when I ate, what time I ate, what I ate. And it was actually going through and writing the food diaries, it really brought it home to me what I had been missing and what I'd been lacking from my fueling on my body. I had restricted so many things. And again, once I got into the pattern of it, it just became a habit. Every day I did it for however many weeks, and it was really a really useful tool to plan and kind of take away that, right, I've said I'm going to have that to eat, so I'm going to have that to eat. There's no argument, there's no, oh well, perhaps I shouldn't have as much to eat today because I didn't exercise as much. So it was a real ownership of, that's what I'm going to eat, and that's what I've said I'm going to eat, and I will. So challenging, but really helped. And I really noticed how much my mood and once I got into the pattern of it and eating regularly, how much it gave me in my energy levels and my brain function. I hadn't realised quite how much not eating enough was limiting me. As maybe naive as that sounds, I hadn't sort of tied the two together. I hadn't realised quite how much it was restricting my being able to be present, be able to be aware of what was going on in the moment. So again, daunting, but so useful and such a useful tool, and brought real positives out of it for me. It was, yeah, really beneficial.
Okay, brilliant, excellent. Okay, and that takes us into stage 2, where we did a review of progress.
Yeah,
we looked at redoing the psychometrics. How was that process for you, and reviewing the progress that you made? What was that like?
Amazingly positive, really positive. I was nervous going into it because, as I say, we did the psychometric testing when I started counselling, and so I knew kind of what my scores were and where I sat with various different stages. And then actually when I redid them, I was amazed, absolutely amazed by how much my numbers had come down, and it just showed me how much progress I had made. It was a real positive affirmation of, yeah, this is really, really, and I knew it was working, but to have that sort of in stats form was really, really useful. And again, talking through again with yourself what it meant, the changes that it sort of it impacted on my life. So it was really, really positive and a really good measure at that stage, I think, of how things were working.
Excellent. Okay, brilliant. Okay, and then that takes us nicely into stage 3. And as part of stage 2, we kind of designed stage 3, and the first we looked at was the dietary rules. So can you just take us through your experience of looking at dietary rules?
Yeah, I restricted so many food groups, so many foods I completely cut from my diet, foods that I used to enjoy. And then obviously because I restricted, I would then binge on these foods at the weekend, or when I'd had a bad day, or when I was emotional, when I was tired. So as part of it, it was looking at all the foods I'd restricted and going, this is called the supermarket challenge, and going and actually buying the food that you stopped buying and introducing them back into your food plan, be 1 or 2 a week. I made myself go 1 a day, 1 food type that I'd cut out, and I made myself have it 1 different thing each day, just to really push myself to know that I could do that, and there was no reason for me not to eat those foods. They weren't going to change my life. They weren't going to make me a bad person, because it's food. It, you know, that it fuels you, and that's it. So that by doing all of those things and working through and recognizing the pattern of when I restricted, how it affected my mood, and then how it would impact on my behavior.
Yeah.
By doing all that work, it's given me such food freedom that I don't binge or crave on foods. I don't eliminate any foods from my diet unless I generally don't like them. And it has brought me such a balance in my attitude to food, my enjoyment of food. I love food. I love cooking. It's one of my absolute joys. I was cooking for the family, and I wasn't eating certain things, or I was cooking myself separate things, which is ridiculous. Or I was baking for them and I would never eat, and my children would notice and say, "You're not having that, Mummy," and I'd be like, "No." Whereas now it's a full-on family experience, and it's far more joyful, and I've got my joy for food back.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, what would you say is the key part of that process? What would you say was the most important thing you learned?
I think looking at how it, by not fueling yourself, by restricting on certain foods, how it impacts on you. Part of the stage 3 as well was looking at the moods and events and belief systems and all that sort of thing. So it was real looking at if you don't eat enough, how it impacts on your mood and your emotions and your behavior and then your actions. And it took away any sort of moral around food. It took away that power of, you can't eat that, you can't have that, you must only eat these things. Who says? If you enjoy food and you have that balance and moderation, then that's the key to it, I think. And it really helped improve my attitude towards foods again, much, much better. But it was challenging. I think it is that challenge and that discussion and support with yourself of how it made me feel, if there were any sort of sticky days or any particular challenges, and being able to be completely open and honest in our sort of online sessions was, yeah, so helpful.
Good. And I think tied up kind of in that is self-evaluation. And remember when we spoke about the kind of the pie chart?
Yeah.
How did that play a part in treatment?
It was quite shocking when I did it to realise, as part of the pie chart, there was not a great deal of things going on that I placed value on for myself, or that I thought people would associate with me. I saw myself as a mum first and foremost, and exercise and diet were kind of the next most important things, which is, it's not any sort of life. It isn't really, and there was no balance. It was very restricted again, that keep coming back to that word, but everything that I was doing was restricting every element of my life, not just eating. It was restricting my enjoyment of things, my trying different things, my experiencing things and trying to learn things, and actually taking that time for myself. I think it was one of the key things that we talked about and came out of it, is how much I put everyone else first. And that's not a bad thing as a mum or as a person, putting your family first. But when there's no balance in your life with regard to relaxing, enjoying different hobbies, and I'd taken all of that out, because all I could think about was looking after my family, exercise, and what I was going to eat or not eat, and that was all that consumed me. So looking at that and looking at the dietary rules and easing that up and looking at different behaviours, my pie chart now is so much more varied. There are so many more segments in it. I'm still put my children first, but I'm able to be a much better mum. I'm more present, I've got more patience, I've got more energy, I've got more headspace. It has made the world of difference, it really has.
Excellent. Okay, thank you so much. And the next part of treatment we moved on to was body image. So what was that experience like for you? How would you describe that? It
was one of the elements we did with the mirror checking or and body comparison, and mirror checking or over critical evaluation of your body wasn't something that really affected me. I was far much more concerned with what the scales said and what clothes size I was wearing. But it did open up that awareness and self-esteem issues, and made me far more aware of, although you might not necessarily think you are judging yourself, you do judge yourself critically, and how that's unhealthy. And so that helped with sort of working through those things. But in particular for me, the comparison I think was more useful, of what sort of stopping comparing myself to other people, stopping thinking, oh, you've got to look a certain way or you need to be a certain size, because who says that? It doesn't make you happy. Just because somebody's a certain size doesn't make them any happier. Just because the scale says a certain thing doesn't make them a better person than you or a happier person than you. So working through all those things was really useful and beneficial in confidence and self-esteem, which I didn't think I was necessarily lacking. But I think when you start assessing these things and really digging deep and being honest with yourself, it certainly threw up some things I think I'd ignored previously, and it helped work through them and be much more confident and at ease. I think my ease with myself has changed massively.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then moving on to the next stage, we looked at moods and mindset. So in terms of, and also problem solving, so within that, what was your experience with that piece of work? What was that like for you?
It's one of my favourite bits, I have to say. I think it was, I've said before, I had so many sort of light bulb moments with regard to the belief system that everyone sort of has, and working through that, what sort of behaviour traits that everyone sort of has, and how that would affect how you would react to a situation. And I think discovering how, just because you have a belief system, who tells you these things, who sets that in stone, and challenging that was really interesting and really helpful to me in learning to not be quite so uptight about certain things, relinquishing some control and learning to relax, which is a particular issue of mine, as you know. And so that whole process really helped me dig deep and look very honestly at my behavioural response to things, my emotional response to things, and it has given me a really good foundation, I think, a much more balanced foundation for dealing with everything, really, to be honest.
Okay, and how would you say that affected the family? Did it change?
Yes, yeah, massively. I think one of the things out of this has changed so much is my communication. I'm much more honest with myself as well. We've said about my big thing I've come out of this is a really honest internal dialogue with myself, of not trying to be sneaky about things, which eating disorders make you very sneaky, and you get very good at hiding things from other people, but also yourself. And I think out of this, I've become much more honest and aware of me generally, but my communication with my family has improved. My communication with my husband has improved. I don't, rather than not want to say something because something made me uncomfortable and then react by either restricting or over exercising or binging, I actually communicate how things make me feel now, which is sometimes difficult, but it's vital. And it's vital as a family, as a married couple, or any sort of couple, any relationship, to have that communication so that other person can understand. They might have made a flippant comment, but until you explain exactly how that made you feel with regard to triggers with eating disorders and dealing with that, they won't know, because they wouldn't have meant it in an awful way. It's how you've perceived that and how you've taken that on board. So to communicate that, it's been, yeah, so important. And we're so much stronger communication wise because of this process. I mean, we were strong before, but because of this, yeah, has made the world of difference. Particularly with the family, my communication with the children in particular, I didn't want to start them noticing things about me that I was doing. I didn't want them to have any sort of issues around food growing up. I've got teenagers and a variety of ages under 13, and I don't want them to have any body image issues growing up. I want them to be as comfortable and balanced around food and body image as possible. And I know I need to lead that from a good place, and I can now. I couldn't before. I can do that, and we're very open about what we discuss. So yeah, communication, yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much. And again, moving on to the final section, stage 4, ending well. What was that like for you? What was your experience of looking at ending treatment and life after treatment?
Yeah, life after treatment, I felt a little bit nervous. I felt a little bit scary because it felt like sort of going back into the big wide world. But with the plan we put in place to look at, you know, if anything, if I feel like I'm going to have any sort of relapse or any sort of blip, the tools that I've got in place and that we've gone through my prevention list was really useful, because I felt absolutely confident and in airing to you my concerns, talking through those concerns, and then putting in place, right, well, this is what I will do, this is what I need to do, and I know I can. And that's purely because of the tools I've learned and the support that you've given me and the confidence I've got knowing that can absolutely do this, can absolutely do it, but only because of all the work I've put in throughout the process am I in the place now that I can. So it was daunting, but yeah, don't feel like I've just been gone, right, off you go, because I know that support is there and we've built through it so that I'm happy that I can do it. And I also know if I do need any extra support, additional support, I can contact you, which is really, really, really reassuring.
So thank you so much. Okay, so in taking into account the 4 stages of treatment, was there any one particular stage that you think was really helpful?
All of it. It has all been, and it flows. I know it sounds probably ridiculous, but each stage flows. And having read the Overcoming Binge Eating book, when I read that, there was so many things that resonated with me that I could recognise from my experience through years and years of yo-yo dieting and being various different weights, morbidly obese down to unhealthy an unhealthy low weight. And there's so many things in there that helped. And having the sessions to talk through that with you, I couldn't say that there was one aspect more useful than the other. It all works. Each stage was beneficial, and it absolutely flowed to the right time. So I wouldn't have been ready for looking at behavioural and belief systems and mindsets unless I'd actually worked through stage 1 and 2 and 3 first, because then I was ready and I had that capacity to do it, because I didn't at the beginning of counselling. So each stage has been vital.
Thank you. Okay, and this brings me to my final question, and it's also, what was your kind of experience of treatment receiving treatment online? What was that like, as opposed to, you know, having treatment in person?
Yeah,
Also that.
for me, it was really beneficial and convenient, I suppose, because I'm home for the majority of this. I've been in lockdown, and again, for the majority of the time, I've been homeschooling my children. So being able to schedule it around knowing that they've got schoolwork they can deal with, and then sort of fitting the sessions in around that has been really, really useful. I don't feel it's been detrimental at all being online. I don't think I've lost any of the support or trust or communication. It's worked really, really well for me.
Excellent, brilliant. Okay, I think I've got one more final question. Do you think this treatment would have worked in a group setting, or was it better one-to-one? What's your impression?
Oh, tricky. I think personally, myself, I think one-to-one is better because you can't hide. I think my concern is if sometimes you might sort of hide in a group slightly. That's my personal thing. I think it's been much more beneficial one-on-one. However, I also think I'd be quite interested to go into group sessions to offer support and to realise, sort of discuss other people's experiences, or again, if somebody's had a similar story to you or something that you can really connect over. I think that would be really useful to have support in that respect.
Yeah.
But personally, the one-on-one has helped me because it's given me the support and the sort of the challenge and the it's just been a better, I think, a better fit for me personally.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay. Oh, actually, I've got one more question. I hope you don't mind. I think if you had a friend who, or someone out there who's experiencing what you experienced prior to you coming to, you know, receive treatment, what guidance and advice would you give to that person? What would you say?
Ask for help. As scary and as daunting as that may seem, it's so important to get your life back, to get that support. I think there's a massive stigma about asking for help. It's seen as a weakness, and I think it's not. I think it's a really brave thing to admit you have whatever issues you have with regard to eating, restricting, or and I think to ask for that help and support is vital, and I would highly recommend your organisation. It has helped me so much. I can't even begin to tell you how grateful I am for the support that you've given me and the guidance, and just enabled me to get me back. I had lost me, and I know that I am the best version of myself at the moment because of all the work that I've done through the CBT and because of your support. So I couldn't recommend it highly enough to other people. And if anybody is scared, just do it. It will help you so much. It really will. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough, to be honest.
Sure. Okay, thank you so much for that. A lot of information there, yeah, and really helpful, really good. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we finish?
Just a massive thank you. Just a really huge thank you for everything you've done, all the support you've given me, and yeah, just thank you. And if anybody is unsure, if me saying, sort of going through my experience can help other people, then yeah, please, feel like I could give back something as well just by recommending your services. That would be brilliant.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kate, and thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. You take care of yourself, and we'll speak soon.
All right, take care. Bye.